Hi, my name is Henry. I'm the owner of Radish Events. We're an ethical catering company based in Sydney. We're B Corp certified, 100% carbon neutral, and on a journey to zero waste. We understand that our business doesn't operate in a vacuum. It's part of a planet, it's part of a community, it's part of an ecosystem, and so we have an impact whether we want it or not. So what we try to do is reduce the negative impact and increase the positive impact. And one of the ways that we can do that is by reducing our waste. In Australia, nearly 7.3 million tons of food is wasted each year. So we don't want to contribute to that number. We take on the challenge of providing food that is delicious, that's bold, that's creative, in a sustainable way, and also in a financially viable way. Reducing food waste can have several positive impacts on the environment. First of all, when you think of food waste, it's not just the food that's on the plate or on the bin. It's also all the resources that went into producing that food, all that supply chain, all the energy, the water, the labor, essentially the carbon emissions that went into creating and bringing that to the plate. So by reducing food waste, you're also helping preserve those resources. And secondly, when you think of food going into the bin or food waste going to landfill, when that gets to landfill, it creates a very dangerous gas called methane, which is 25 times more powerful than carbon dioxide, which we hear often about CO2. But also reducing waste can have a big impact on profitability, whether it's from reducing your food costs or also just being able to create a more meaningful story for your business, which leads to more loyal customers who then see more value in your offer. Some of the key principles of reducing waste are using a circular menu, so a menu that uses all of the ingredients or the whole parts of ingredients. Data collection, so being able to measure your impact. Having a more transparent sales and planning process, and composting. Data collection can be challenging, first because there's no real metrics out there to follow. You kind of have to invent as you go and figure out what's going to be most efficient. And secondly, because it can be very mundane. So for example, one way that we measure our food waste is weighing all of our bins before they go into waste collection. And we put down the weight of every bin every single week. But once you start to accumulate the data and you see the results, it's really rewarding to be able to see the progress. The process of planning a low waste menu actually starts before going into the actual dish. You start thinking about what's in season, what can I get that maybe is surplus from my suppliers, and then working with that ingredient to understand, okay, what are the main parts of this ingredient, what are sort of the considered offcuts, and how can I use all of it to turn into maybe multiple dishes. If you say to me, give me a menu and you've got no parameters, any cost, any ingredient, any season, whatever, it's actually really hard to get creative in that scenario. Whereas if you have really clear parameters, then you can get really creative. So if you say you've got this season, you've got this bit of the ingredient, you have to create something with that, that's when the chefs can really free their minds and get creative. The heads and tails fish croquette is a dish that started from us getting the whole fish, so we get a whole Murray cod. The loin becomes one dish that goes to a dinner, and then we wanted to do something with the rest of the fish. So we steam the fish, we pick off the meat from the heads, the frames, and the tails, and we blend that with bechamel and turn it into a croquette, which became a whole new canapé that's super popular and people love it. The house-made zero waste veggie powder. This is us getting all of the veggie scraps, putting it into a dehydrator, dehydrating it fully, and then blending it into a powder. And this powder can turn into a stock back. We add it to other dishes as seasoning. We can, add it to popcorn, and it makes the popcorn delicious. It just became a bit of a trump card in anything that we're doing in the kitchen. Paella is a concept that we love, Spanish paella, because it is about sharing and it's about using what you've got. Veggie scraps can go into the stock. If you're using prawns, the prawn shells can go into making the stock to make that dish. The origins of paella are all about using what you've got on hand. For some time we were trying to figure out what to do with herbs that were getting soggy in the fridge, and then we had our Spanish chef say, we're gonna make a chimichurri with all the leftover herbs that we have. And so we called it the upcycled herb chimichurri. It was such a creative moment. It looks great on the menu, and it makes use of all those leftover herbs that we had in the cool room. When you use your creativity to turn something that was going to go into the bin into a whole new dish, and you see that making its way to the menu, and you see people talking about it and being excited about it, that's really rewarding. Some of the challenges we found in trying to reduce waste are, first, you have to get your team on board. It's already a very difficult environment. There's so much to think about. Chefs are busy, it's a busy environment. So if you don't believe in the same things, you're really not going to get anywhere. So getting team buy-in is super important. And once we did that, you could just see it flourish. Chefs are extremely resilient and hardworking. And if you are able to show them that this is as worth it as it is to produce the food that they're producing, for it to be something that they care about, if you get on that side, that's it. They are gonna find a way to make it work. Low-waste cooking is a point of difference for Radish because our customers are on board with that vision. This is what they want to see. They want to see sustainable practices. So we can position ourselves as the catering company who is sustainability leader. It's extremely critical to start reducing your waste, whether it's because it's something that you believe is the right thing to do, or if it's because this is where the market is going, this is where demand is growing. We see our clients more and more every day asking for sustainable practices or responsible business practices. People are asking more relevant questions. They want to know more about it. They want to get more in depth. We've had clients say, what is it exactly that you do for carbon emissions, or how are you measuring your food waste? So that's really exciting to see. If you're not switching to this very soon, you're actually going to be left behind very soon. Some of the best practices of cooking with low waste are thinking of each ingredient as a whole ingredient, not as a prime cut and off cuts. Every cut is a special cut and can turn into something amazing. Another best practice is to start with seasonal menus and sustainable produce. So really trying to find suppliers who are like-minded and work in the same way that you want. And don't try to tackle the world all at once. It's better to have small improvements every day than just have a perfect scenario from the get-go. It is really hard in the beginning, and it's hard to stick to it because it does feel like it's a lot of extra work for no point. It's not until you start to see a little bit of progress, and that's why it's important to measure and it's important to take it step by step. When you start to see progress, you get excited by it. It's just like going to the gym, right? You start, it's really hard. You're like, what's the point? Nothing's changing. But when you start to see some results, you're like, oh, okay, this is working, and then you keep going. We put time and effort towards this, and now it's paying off. Like, now we can see the returns. It helps us create a sense of purpose, and it gives a lot of motivation and energy to our team to know that we're doing something different. The challenging part is to change how you think about it. The challenging part is to change how you view ingredients, to change how you want to have an impact in what you're doing. Once you change that, the execution is actually quite easy, because it is just about being creative. It is just about playing with flavors, trying to come up with new ideas, which is what we do every day.